The aroma of simmering broth, garlic, and sesame oil lingered in the air long after the last customer had left. Rain whispered against the windows, drumming softly on the roof of the small eatery tucked away in a quiet soul alley. Inside, Millicent Williams stood at the kitchen counter, her delicate fingers expertly wrapping dumplings with a precision that defied her blindness. She hummed softly to herself, the Ghanaian lullaby her mother used to sing, her lips curving into a faint smile. To anyone watching, it would be impossible to guess she couldn't see. Her movements were fluid, confident. Her world was one of scent, sound, and touch, and she had mastered them all. "Millie," a gravelly voice called from the dining area. It was Mr. Huang, the restaurant's owner, and the man who had given her a chance when no one else would. She paused. "Yes, Mr. Huang? Come sit with me for a moment," he said. Millicent wiped her hands on her apron, untied it, and slowly made her way to the table where he sat. She knew every creak in the wooden floor, every curve of the walls. She didn't need help finding her way. She sat across from him, the scent of his green tea and liniment oil telling her more than sight ever could. He sounded tired, too tired. "You didn't eat again," she murmured, folding her hands on the table. He chuckled, though the sound was brittle. "You always know." She tilted her head. "Your tea smells stronger than usual. You skipped dinner to drink it instead." A pause. "Millie, I have something to tell you." Her smile faltered. "What is it?" He hesitated, and that silence told her everything. "The restaurant," he exhaled slowly. "I'm closing it." Her breath caught. "I'm getting older, and my health isn't what it used to be. The doctor says I need to rest. No more early mornings, no more chopping vegetables with a trembling hand." Millicent's fingers gripped the edge of the table. "But this place, it's home." "I know." His voice broke slightly. "It's yours more than mine now. You gave it soul again." She didn't speak. Her chest tightened with the quiet ache of loss. This kitchen had been her safe haven since she arrived in Korea 5 years ago, confused, heartbroken, blind but not defeated. Mr. Huang had been the first person who looked past her cane, past her silence, and truly saw her. "I didn't want to leave you stranded," he continued, "which is why I've made arrangements." She raised her head, brows furrowing. "Arrangements? I spoke to an old friend. He owes me a favor. I told him about you, about your gift." "Who?" she asked quietly. "You've heard of La Lumière, haven't you?" Her heart skipped. "La Lumière? The 5-star restaurant? The one owned by Kang Joon-ho?" "Yes," Mr. Huang replied. "The very one." Millicent's mouth opened, but no words came. That restaurant was a legend in Seoul's culinary world. Exclusive, breathtaking, perfection on a plate. Kang Joon-ho was one of the richest and most private men in Korea. Stories about him were half rumor, half myth. A genius businessman, cold as winter steel, obsessed with precision. "He agreed to an audition," Mr. Huang said. "No promises, but he's willing to watch you cook." She stared ahead, her hands now trembling slightly. "I'm not trained," she whispered. "I've never been to culinary school. You're not just anything," Mr. Huang said firmly. "You've got something those chefs don't. You cook with your soul, not your eyes. You fed the lonely and the broken with flavors they forgot they needed." "But what if I fail?" He reached across the table and gently took her hand. "Then you'll have tried. That's more than most ever do." She was quiet for a long moment, the rain outside growing heavier. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and the familiar scent of ginger and soy lingered from the kitchen. "Will you come with me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I wish I could." His voice cracked with emotion. "But this is a door you have to walk through alone." Tears pricked the corners of her eyes. Not from fear, not exactly, but from the enormity of it all, the unknown. Mr. Huang stood and walked around the table, pulling her into a warm embrace. His hand rested on the back of her head, and for a moment, she let herself feel like the child she had once been, lost in a world that didn't understand her blindness or her dreams. "You were meant for more than this alley, Millie," he whispered. "Don't let fear stop you." She nodded against his shoulder. Outside, the neon signs of the alley flickered in the rain, casting shadows over the wet pavement. Inside, Millicent sat quietly after Mr. Huang left, tracing the grain of the wooden table with her fingertips. Tomorrow, everything would change, and for the first time in years, she didn't know what the kitchen would smell like. The next morning, Seoul wore a different kind of silence, one that came not from peace, but from expectation. Millicent stood outside the towering glass structure of La Lumière, her hands wrapped tightly around the handle of her white cane. Her long coat clung to her figure as a chilly breeze tugged at her hair, sending the scent of city traffic and roasted chestnuts her way. Somewhere in the distance, a delivery truck rumbled past, but her ears focused only on the soft chime of the revolving doors in front of her. Her fingers trembled slightly, not from the cold but from nerves. She was dressed in simple black slacks and a cream blouse. It was modest and neat. Not that it mattered. Her outfit wasn't going to speak for her. Her food would. The entrance hissed open. A staff member greeted her at the door with a rehearsed politeness, but she could feel it in the air, the hesitation, the unspoken question in their breath. "She's the one?" Millicent smiled gently. "Millicent Williams. Here for my audition." The woman paused, then said quickly, "Of course. This way." They led her down a hallway that felt like walking through a cathedral. Every footstep softened by plush carpeting, every scent carefully controlled. Clean, sharp, cold. Then the kitchen. It buzzed with a quiet intensity. Millicent stepped in and felt it instantly, the pulse of an empire. Knives clinked in rhythm, pans sizzled like whispered applause, orders floated from mouths with military precision. And then silence. Millicent didn't need eyes to know they were staring. The shift in air was unmistakable. She stood quietly as murmurs passed from one chef to another. "She's blind. She's not Korean. She's not even trained." Before she could process more, a voice cut through the tension like an icicle slicing silk. "You're late by 2 minutes." She turned slightly. The voice belonged to him. Chairman Kang Joon-ho. Even without sight, she felt the weight of his gaze. His presence wasn't loud, but it filled every inch of space. Tall, poised, cold as the mountain snow. She imagined his suit was tailored, his expression unreadable. He didn't come closer. He didn't offer a hand. "You will cook. No help. No instructions. You have 1 hour," he said. "Impress me or leave." Millicent simply nodded, already walking toward where she'd heard the ingredients were laid out. Her cane tapped the tiles softly until she found her bearings. Then she placed it gently against the counter. Silence followed her. She reached for the ingredients with sure fingers. Ginger, fermented soybean paste, garlic, Scotch bonnet peppers she'd requested in advance. Her world became a map of textures, weights, and scents. The chopping began, swift, measured. As the broth began to simmer, the scent of smoked mackerel and red palm oil teased the air, mingling with sesame and beef stock. A quiet murmur rose in the room. Korean chefs leaned in. The dish was unfamiliar, yet comforting. When the hour was up, she stepped back, hands folded. Chairman Kong approached, silent as snow. He lifted a spoon. Tasted. Waited. Then he set it down. "You start tomorrow." That was all. No praise. No smile. It was just a cold verdict from a man who measured everything in precision and profit. The next morning, Millicent returned to La Lumière. This time, the stares were sharper. She was shown to a corner of the kitchen, a small prep station with minimal tools, far from the grand counters where the main chefs worked. Her area was cleaner than necessary, isolated, like a guest room no one planned to revisit. Then came the announcement. "You will cook 1 meal a day," the sous chef, Ms. Bay, said crisply. "For the chefs, not the customers." Millicent nodded slowly. "As a test." Ms. Bay didn't answer. Instead, she continued. "If each chef gives you a perfect score by the end of the week, the chairman will allow you to cook for our guests. And if not, you leave." No bitterness rose in Millicent's chest. She had never expected kindness to meet her at the gates of the elite. But she had something they didn't. She had heart. On day 1, Chef Nam, the pastry head, a man known for his obsession with detail, was her first evaluator. Millicent made coconut jollof risotto with soy-marinated beef, garnished with sesame-tossed spinach and puffed rice. He took a single bite and stared. 5, he muttered, almost reluctantly. On day 2, Chef Lee, the soup specialist, was next. She prepared a light okra and anchovy broth, laced with doenjang and a hint of groundnut, served in a delicate stone bowl. 5, he had said after licking his spoon. By day 4, they stopped asking what she was making. Instead, they gathered near her corner, peeking as she arranged spices by touch and added herbs by scent. She never rushed, never bragged. And yet, the aroma from her corner drew more attention than the executive chef's plates. Some of the kitchen staff began helping quietly, handing her towels, clearing space, asking questions. It wasn't charity. It was respect. Millicent had changed something in them. Not with ambition, not with skill alone, but with the way she treated her food like a letter to someone she loved. On Friday, the final day, the sous chef herself tasted the dish, a kimchi groundnut stew over yam. No one spoke as she chewed slowly, eyes fluttering closed. She placed her spoon down and muttered, 5. Millicent wiped her hands, heart steady, and she smiled. From the far end of the kitchen, she felt his presence again. Chairman Kong had been watching, always watching. He approached her station without speaking. "I'm told you've passed," he said at last. Millicent stood tall. "Yes, sir." He studied her. "Tomorrow, you'll cook for table 7. VIP clients. You'll prepare anything you like. Her lips parted in surprise, but she nodded. Then, unexpectedly, he leaned in slightly and said, "You're truly a good cook." Before she could say thank you, he turned and walked away. That night, Millicent stepped outside into the cool Seoul air. The rain had stopped, but the streets still shimmered under streetlights and neon signs, puddles catching broken reflections of a city always in motion. A light breeze passed over her face, brushing her cheeks and whispering gently through her hair. She paused on the sidewalk, tilted her face to the sky, and breathed in. It was roasted chestnuts, wet asphalt, and something unfamiliar but promising hung in the air. La Lumière had not welcomed her with warmth. It had tested her, doubted her. But now it had begun to listen. And that was enough for now. 3 weeks had passed since Millicent Williams first stepped into La Lumière's pristine, glass-wrapped kitchen. In that time, the scent of her cooking had become something of a mystery in the restaurant's mirrored halls, both a whisper and a signature. Her quiet confidence, the way her fingers moved across the surface of ingredients, her soft hums as she stirred or plated. These had all become part of La Lumière's new rhythm. Something had shifted, and at the center of it was Millicent. The other chefs no longer avoided her. They offered ingredients, shared equipment, and even asked questions. Most days, she smiled more than she spoke. But the heart of her new world was Hayan. From the first day Millicent had served a dish to the staff, Hayan had taken a special interest in her. A kind-eyed server with a gentle voice and a laugh like wind chimes, Hayan always described colors and plating with such vividness that Millicent could see them in her mind. "You arrange your plates like poetry," Hayan once told her. "Not crowded, just quiet and thoughtful. Like you." They had become fast friends, bonding over shared stories and spice cabinets. On Hayan's breaks, she would sit with Millicent and name herbs in Korean while Millicent replied with their names in one of the Ghanaian language. They played blind-tasting games, experimented with textures, and invented dishes that stitched their two worlds closer together. One afternoon, as the restaurant hummed with a low buzz of lunch prep, Millicent stood at her station, working on a new dessert and humming softly, unnoticed by most. But not by Chairman Kang Joon-ho. Behind a frosted glass panel on the upper walkway, he stood watching. He often came to the kitchen, but rarely entered. He preferred to observe. That day, he wasn't inspecting staff or inventory. His eyes were on her. She never tried to command attention. And yet, when she moved, the room listened. When she cooked, even the most skeptical chefs paused. Kang had seen top-tier professionals panic during plating. But this woman, blind, untrained, foreign, cooked with the patience of someone who trusted her senses more than anyone trusted sight. She moved like a melody, and what struck him most was how she made people feel. That evening, a VIP client arrived, a well-known publisher who dined weekly at La Lumière, always at table 7. His tastes were refined, difficult, but tonight he asked only for the special of the day. That special happened to be Millicent's creation. Groundnut broth with tofu dumplings, spiced with gochugaru and lemongrass oil, served with sticky rice wrapped in seaweed. He took the first spoonful slowly, then another, and another. He didn't speak for a long time. When the server approached to clear his plate, the man raised his hand. "Stop," he said softly. "Who made this dish?" "Chef Millicent Williams, sir," the waiter replied. I want to meet her." It was not rare for a VIP to request a meeting with a chef. What was rarer was them insisting. Within minutes, Hayan rushed into the kitchen breathless. "Millie," she whispered. "He wants to meet you." Millicent blinked. "Who?" "The man at table 7. He said your food." Hayan paused. "He said it made him feel something he hadn't in years." Millicent hesitated. "Should I go?" "You have to." The corridor from kitchen to dining room stretched long and quiet. Millicent walked slowly, guided gently by Hayan's arm. Her cane tapped against the marble floor, each click echoing into polished silence. Soft jazz played in the background. Cutlery clinked faintly. Conversations lulled. And then silence, sharp and total. Every diner turned. There she stood, a young, blind black woman in a simple chef's coat, poised in the center of the most luxurious dining space in Seoul. The man at table 7 rose slowly. His face was lined with age and memory. "You," he began, voice thick. "Your dish, it reminded me of my grandmother's kitchen. The warmth, the way she used to stir stew in a clay pot while singing to herself. I hadn't remembered that in over 20 years." Millicent's lips parted, touched by the sincerity in his voice. "I'm honored," she said quietly. And then something no one expected. The man bowed, deeply. The room gasped. In Korea, bows carried weight. For a man of his status to bow to a young foreign chef, it wasn't just rare. It was reverent. Millicent, standing still at the center of the restaurant, heard the sudden hush. The shift. the sharp intake of breath across the room. But she didn't see the bow. She didn't understand why everything had gone so silent. She leaned slightly toward Hayan, her voice a quiet whisper. What just happened? Hayan's mouth fell open. She blinked rapidly, then leaned in close to Millicent's ear. He bowed to you, she breathed. Millie, the man bowed. Deep, like a full 90 degrees. Everyone staring. Millicent's breath caught. He what? Hayan gave a tiny nod, forgetting for a second that Millicent couldn't see it. He still bowed. Millie, you have to. Millicent took a breath, then bowed back, low, graceful, steady. From his usual perch above the dining floor, Chairman Kang watched the entire scene unfold. That night, he walked the halls of the now-quiet restaurant alone, thoughts circling like wind in an empty bottle. What is perfection if it has no soul? Millicent's food didn't just feed the stomach. It nourished something deeper. She didn't plate for applause. She plated for comfort, for memory, for healing. Kang had built La Lumière on reputation, ratings, and ruthless precision. But what she had defied measurement. He stopped near the kitchen and looked in. Millicent sat beside Hayan, laughing softly over a bowl of something warm. Hayan described colors again, saffron, coral, almond white, as Millicent stirred and smiled. For the first time in years, something stirred beneath Kang's cold, structured exterior. It was not admiration, not curiosity, but warmth. And he didn't know what to do with it.